Hi, my name is Leah Lovelight, and welcome to Reveal Microdose Conversations, designed to support you in your journey of radical self-acceptance and empowerment as a woman. We hope you enjoy the magic. All right, well, thank you so much for being part of this microdose conversation with the one and only Jon Berghoff. My name is Leah Lovelight. I'm the facilitator of Reveal Retreats and host of Reveal Microdose Conversation. And today, I honestly feel like this might be a little bit of a dream come true, being able to interview you, Jon, because you are truly an individual that has transformed and changed my life. You're the first person that I ever met that really introduced me to this idea of personal development, what might be possible if I set goals. You brought into my world really the power of a question. I will never forget the moment when I heard you on stage and you said, the moment you ask a question, the future is forever changed. And so you have been an inspiration for my own growth as a leader in of leading transformative experiences. And you have been a mentor of like how to show up in a more vibrant, bold way, authentically. And that's something that I truly, truly appreciate about you. So thank you for being here
I'm so
today.
happy to be here, Leah. So
Thank
happy
you.
to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so for those that do not know who Jon is, which you will very soon, Jon Berghoff is a modern day alchemist and considered by many to be the world leader at teaching others how to create transformative learning experiences in person and online. He's regularly called upon to design and facilitate global leadership summits. He serves as an official design facilitator partner for Conscious Capitalism, an annual CEO summit. And he has worked with global organizations ranging from BMW, Facebook, Women's President Organization, and HeartMath, and thousands of purpose-driven trainers, facilitators, coaches, and consultants who want to unlock the collective potential through how we gather. And so I'm just really grateful. And I'd love to see if there's anything you want to share to that impressive introduction of you.
Oh, well, it's enjoyable to hear because it's meaningful work with wonderful people like yourself. And I feel compelled to acknowledge, Leah. I told you a minute ago, I'm under the weather, but I this morning I said the best part of my day is going to be connecting with you. And I'm honored to support anything that you're doing. Everything you ask is a yes for me because I've watched you for the last, like you said, however many years, go from being, a student or participant in what we're doing to witnessing you leading extraordinary experiences and seeing lives change because of what you do. And so it fills me up. It's meaningful work. It's meaningful work for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I shared with somebody the other day that I want to impact 1 billion lives. And I think about all of the thousands of people that I know you've impacted. And I think you might be close to that billions at this point with like inspiration and creation. So it's an honor to be one of your students and to stand beside you and support as well. So thank you. So all right. Well, I would love to connect in with you. I think one of the things that I really appreciate most about you has always been your love for nature and connecting to nature. And in leading transformative experiences, connecting into nature is one of the most important parts of the Reveal experience because we are nature. And so when we connect into that and celebrate who we are, then we can become wildly alive. So I would love to just tap in with you. How do you feel like bringing nature leads to transformation within experiences?
Oh my goodness. How do we do this in just 15 minutes? Well, I mean, you said it all that, we are nature and, we can choose to perceive nature, I think, several ways. We can see nature as something to learn from. There's a science to it all. Like these pictures behind me, these flowers all grow towards the sun, right? And there's a scientific principle there. We grow towards that which gives us life. And I think it's fascinating, Leah, that whether we understand it or not, there are principles at work in nature that are a symbol and a source of insight and wisdom for all of us, right? Nature grows towards that which gives life. It evolves, it adapts, it listens, it learns. You know, there's so many aspects of it. I think if there's one principle in nature that in our work, in your work, in leading transformative experiences that I'm reminded of most, it's how connected we all are. It's when I sit on a rock and I'm in the middle of the trees, it's remembering that the air and the soil and everything in between is really all connected. And when we come together in these learning environments, realizing that even if we say we're here to learn or to get creative or to transform or solve some challenge in our lives, that the center of being able to do that is actually through how we connect with each other during these experiences, which is not always intuitive or obvious, but I think that's one of many lessons nature has for us, is to really be mindful of how connected we are. One of my teachers, Meg Wheatley, says, nothing living lives alone. And remembering that we're wired to co-regulate and what that really means in any group setting. It can remind us, that through each other's eyes, we can see ourselves or see what's possible or see what we need to see. So I don't know, that's what comes up for me when you ask about nature.
I love it. I love how you light up too. Like when you talk about it, it's just it's such an innate part of who you are that it just radiates everywhere. So the
Well,
unlimited.
look at my desk. It's like I got the flowers here and the plants there. I got the people here. Yeah, it's there.
It's important. It's important. So one of the things that you just tapped in on that I know that is so important with transformative experiences is the need of connection that we all innately have. And when we come into transformative experiences, we often enter as an individual, and through connection, we get to discover something about ourselves, which brings in this deeper element of belonging. So if somebody is curious about entering into a transformative experience, what are some ways that might support somebody learning how to create belonging or learning how to be comfortable in their own skin when they go into a transformative experience? What might you say?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And I think whether we're leading an experience or participating, there's insights that can help us all to create that magical experience. And I'm reminded, Leah, that a lot of the work that I do today that's similar to what you do in bringing groups together, I think it's taken me about 30 years or 20 plus years to realize this, but in some way it's an aim to heal wounds from my own soul, from my past. And there was a time in my life where I felt legitimately, genuinely unsafe. I did not feel like I belonged. And it was at a time between about 8th grade and my senior year in high school. That's a very difficult time to not feel safe, not feel connected with others, to not belong. I was literally numb for 5 years. And I was just so fortunate that entrepreneurship was a way out for me. But the lesson that moment has brought for me today is to remember that every time two or more of us come together in any group setting, we are all asking some version of the question, can I be who I am and still fit in with this group right now? And that question it's important because what we're really talking about is, do we feel safe? And it could be easy to dismiss this and say, well, when I show up to a meeting or a conference or a workshop or a retreat, of course I feel safe. And maybe physically we do, but we also have to recognize we are living in a moment in time that some of our teachers refer to this as an age of crisis. This is a moment of where so many of us might not realize it, but at the level of our whole civilization, we're operating, seeing the world as a threat. And so anybody who can relate to being under pressure, dealing with stress or self-doubt, or as Adair would share, under-resourced from demands that we don't know how to meet, learning is a demand, right? Trying to transform is a demand. You compound that, this moment that we live in, and all of the conflict internally and between each other. When we talk about safety, we're talking about psychological safety. And so I felt really unsafe at a very difficult time in my life. And I didn't realize it until many years later. But even when we come together and we say we're here to learn, to create, to solve, to create a different future, to transform, our biology does all those things much more effectively, or you could even argue it won't do those things if it doesn't feel safe. And one of the fastest pathways to feeling safe is either through how we are guided to connect with others or how we consciously guide ourselves to connect with others. And of course, what we do to resource ourselves and feel safe within. But you asked about connection and belonging, and one of the key ingredients to that experience of belonging is the experience of safety. So whether I'm the leader or a participant, making that a priority is key. I'll leave it at that and see what that brings up.
Yeah. Well, I think that what you're tapping into right now is a critical time in the world, because so often most of us don't actually really feel safe, whether we're inundated through the news or hearing negativity elsewhere or whatever there might be. We all just came out of a huge global pandemic where like isolation was huge. So even connecting with somebody else is a big deal. So I love what you're bringing in this idea of safety, and how do we find safety within our own being so that we can find safety within an experience. And so what you've alluded to is you don't do it alone. You work with people, you like find your mentors, you find the people that will support you on the journey of healing, because we don't heal in isolation. We heal in community, and we grow together in community. So I really love that. So thank you for bringing that element in of safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you are so masterful at is curiosity. You have an ability to see beyond, to hear deeper, to, I don't know, like one time I remember saying, do you know what you're actually doing? Because you just have this like magnitude of being able to connect all the dots so quickly. So how might somebody use the power of curiosity to lead transformation within their own life if they choose not to go into a transformative experience? Because this is a real good tool I think anybody can use.
Well, you said something when you introduced me from your personal recollection of some experience years ago. And I want to come back to your comment, because I think your comment is a way of giving reverence and respect to the power of curiosity. And I've heard this said so many different ways. There's wisdom tradition teachings that talk about curiosity, which you could argue is a close cousin of humility, and how it's how we become more powerful within ourselves and with others. But I've always had this feeling that curiosity, or the questions we ask, are kind of like a lens that we put in front of our eyes. And you said this quote earlier that we often state, and that is that our questions will change our future even before the answers arrive. And how can we say that? And what are some examples of that? Well, we say that because just like a lens in front of our eyes, I'm wearing contacts right now, but anybody who's ever had a prescription lens can relate to this, that lens is going to change the world that we see even before we open our eyes. Our questions do the same thing. And I think the invitation, Leah, for all of us is to recognize how often either our internal thought patterns or our external conversation patterns are really conscious versus unconscious. And if we want our thinking patterns and our conversation patterns to shift a little bit from maybe reactive, which is what happens biologically when we're under stress or under pressure and we're not paying close attention and we're under-resourced, to how do we get more creative or collaborative, right? How do we find solutions to difficult challenges? Curiosity is really like a fulcrum point in both of those cases. So as you know, our work very much centers around what are the types of questions that can bring us alive? What are the types of questions that can help us to connect to a sense of meaning or purpose, or learn or appreciate from our past? And I'll give you an example or two of a few of my favorite. One is I shared earlier that, for me, my work today, maybe unconsciously, was a way to try and heal or resolve something from my past. Well, one of the other things that I'm really grateful for is that part of my past that for many years clouded my ability to see clearly and act wisely. It clouded my ability to connect with others. I finally got to a point where somebody gave me a question not too long ago. And they said, how is it that maybe all those past experiences, instead of seeing them as something that happened to me, maybe they happened for me? And that's a difficult question. If somebody's hearing that, thinking about an injustice or something that happened to them that genuinely they could take a stand for, what I'm talking about is that question for me and for all of us can be an example of finding a source of power, finding a source of learning, finding a new meaning that I give to an old experience just by asking a new question. So you had asked about the power of questions, and I just think it's significant. And there's a lot of research that backs up that in groups, in teams, in organizations, in families, in marriages or intimate relationships, the degree to which we are curious versus just wanting to prove our point or convince somebody of our position is a leading indicator to the health of those group dynamics. So it's everything for us, as you know.
Yeah, yeah. I would be, I think this would be a great time actually just to share a little bit about exchange because I will share that you have workshops that come up and people can come in. And so for me, I've been part of the exchange community, which is for facilitators to be able to learn how to ask better questions and create more connection within groups that you lead. And I want to know if there's anything else that you would like to share about exchange or the workshop that's coming up for participants that might be interested in leading transformative experiences.
Sure. So, yeah, two things. One is, as you know, we host a semi-regular workshop open to the public. I host it personally. It's where I get to meet. In the last 3 years since the pandemic got here, I've met over 13,000 teachers, trainers, retreat leaders, coaches, consultants who've come to these workshops live to have an experiential introduction to what we do. And I'll give you a URL, really simple, Exchange Approach, the letter X, the word change, the word approach.com/reveal. And if somebody goes there, it'll tell you whenever our next workshop is, and it'll tell me that I met him through you, Leah. And then, yeah, the other thing I want to say is not so much about our workshop, but about our work and about an opportunity of our times. So if someone's listening to this and they either currently are somebody who leads any type of group experience or they aspire to, where the priorities are to enable learning or transformation or to create a sense of community or belonging, any combination of that, I just want to speak directly to that person for a moment and to say, not only might you be needed more than you realize in our world right now, but the way that people need us to bring them together also needs to be reinvented, reimagined, because there are so many intelligent, experienced, well-intentioned, good-hearted teachers, conveners, coaches, leaders who aren't aware that there's another way to design and lead group experiences where we don't have to be what we call the sage on the stage. What we can learn how to do is also to be a guide on the side. And when we realize that every time we bring a group together, the wisdom, the learnings that are available in the group itself are far beyond what maybe any one teacher or body of teachings has to offer to that group, there's a weight that gets released from our shoulders. But now there's a new responsibility, Leah, and we've had students who they cite what we do is like, this is like an opportunity of our generation to learn how to design and facilitate gatherings that unlock the collective potential. And the beauty of doing that is when we understand how to design and facilitate so that people feel safe through how they're meaningfully connected to each other. It brings online their ability to learn, to think, to see something differently, to now relate with others in more meaningful human ways. This is needed in our world. If I can say one more thing about this, if someone were to ask us, like, Jon, what is it that exchange really does? Because above the surface, it looks like, hey, this is kind of a really cool human way to design experiences where people learn, connect. But really below the surface, Leah, it's helping people to belong. And I would like to say that that is the most fundamental experience of being a human being. And we are living in a world right now where I'm not here to say what our future looks like, but I do believe that our future is headed in a direction that our future ancestors are hoping that there is a group of people right now who will choose to be a stand to help others to remember what it means to be a human being. I think that's going to be a really important capability into the future. So thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, I love that. What what this is bringing up for me, and we'll keep this one a little bit short. So Reveal itself is a transformative experience, and it is truly designed to support women coming home into their body and healing and wholeness. And you are the first sacred masculine that we've gotten to interview
Hey,
here. So
thank you.
thank you.
That's an honor.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying, and what I know deep in my heart, is we can design a transformative experience for women, but what really needs to transform is the women and men together. The human being needs to transform together. And so for us, as we continue to work with women, and we have this idea of bringing in this wholeness with the masculine as well, what is something that you think might be able to support that healing of the masculine and feminine through transformative experiences?
That's a beautiful question. That's a beautiful question, Leah. Wow. Well, I think first and foremost, the recognition of something you've alluded to several times, to be whole is to be healthy. And whether or not somebody wants to become a student of history or of the systemic forces of our institutions and our civilization that have gotten us to where we are, and they see that, hey, you know what, that maybe there's been an imbalance between masculine and feminine energy in our workplaces and in our various institutions. And maybe there's an opportunity to be a contributor of service to good in the world by being a stand for a healthy balance, a wholeness between those two forces. I think it starts with just appreciating and recognizing the value of wholeness. You said it so well. It's not that we need more of this or less of this or one or the other. One of our teachers at Exchange, Nalima Bhatt, she had a really cool way of teaching this to our community over the last few years. And she talked about how bringing together the wisdom of both the mother and the father, right, which is another way of saying the masculine, the feminine and the masculine, but also the wisdom of the parent and the child. And her colleague, Raj Sisodia, who has been a student and a teacher in the Exchange community, who founded the conscious capitalism movement, he took Nalima's concept, and together they created this phrase that I think of all the time, and it encapsulates all that teaching. And it's an invitation to be a wise fool of tough love. And the wise fool of tough love is just maybe a playful way of acknowledging how do we bring and honor the wisdom of our parents and the joy and the light and the life of the playfulness of the child, and also the toughness, the positive, supportive toughness of the masculine and the love of the mother or the feminine. That simple little kind of trivial statement, to me, I think about a lot, just as like a compass. Like, am I swaying one way or the other? And then do I open myself to to evolving so that there's more wholeness and health in that compass. So that's what comes up for me, for whatever that's
Love
worth.
that. Wise fool, tough love. I love that. Well, I'm going to make sure to share how people can find out about the Exchange 101 experience and find Exchange period. But this is a really fun thing to get to ask you because you're the originator of this question. But is there anything else that you would like to share before we close down this conversation?
Oh my gosh. Is there anything else? That's a wonderful question. Well, if you're going to ask me that question, Leah, then I'm just going to, yes, of course there is. I want to just appreciate you. And I want to appreciate that, we've hosted so many gatherings in our community, online, which today has become a specialization of ours because we can, and geez, the access and the opportunity that creates for so many people, it equalizes the playing field. It's amazing. And many in person. And I have a lot of great memories of you being a part of both. But I think about before the pandemic, some of the experiences where I saw you in the room and the impact that you make through how you show up. As you know, we often have music, and there's always an invitation, not an obligation. There's a freedom of choice to dance. And which catches some people off guard, some people by surprise, some love it, and some just observe. But I want to recognize that you are always one of the persons who gives yourself the permission to be fully expressed, to be yourself through how you show up. And because of how I've witnessed you show up in these environments, courageously being your full self. And I know oftentimes that you don't know everybody in that room, and I know that takes courage. You give everybody else permission to be themselves. So I want to acknowledge you for that, because if anybody's listening and they're wondering, how can I make a difference, even if I'm not the one on the stage and I'm not in charge? Listen, every one of us makes a difference. We all have an undeniable, unavoidable influence on every person and every group that we are a part of. It doesn't matter what our title is. Leah, you've embodied influencing at scale without the title, and that's the most meaningful influence, just by you courageously, fully expressing yourself. So that's my anything else. Thank you for doing and being that, because that's the best gift for all of us when we think about who we can be when we step into any group.
I love that. I love that. Celebrating exactly who you are. And when we show up just as we are, we get to be exactly who we be. So there's less pressure that way. I love that. Thank you. And the spaces you create, it's so fun just to be fun. It's just fun to be fun. So thank you for that. So
You're welcome.
yeah. I'm like trying to hold back tears. Actually, I'm like, don't cry, because you really struck my heart. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Well, those that are joining us on the live broadcast, thank you for being here. Have a beautiful day. And for those of us that are still here, whether you're listening to us through YouTube or Spotify, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your presence. And Jon, thank you for your wisdom. So thank you for that.
Thanks for the chance to be here, Leah.
Yeah,
Take good care.
100%.
Cheers.